You may not have seen Joe Biden talk. Now, this isn't the whole thing. The whole actual clip is like 35 minutes. I don't have 35 minutes of Joe Biden. What I have is a great clip that summarizes Joe Biden in his performance tonight during the CNN Climate Town Hall. Here it is.
So what are we doing? What's going on right now?
I want to ask you about the Green New Deal. In your plan, you say that the Green New Deal is, quote, a crucial framework for meeting the climate challenges we face. You say it has two basic truths, that we need to combat the climate crisis with what you say is ambition on an epic scale, and that the environment and economy are, in your words, completely and totally connected. You're not saying that you support everything in the original Green New Deal. Do you think it goes too far? Is it unrealistic, promising too much?
No, it's not. But here's what it is. It doesn't have a lot of specifics. It doesn't have a lot of specifics about exactly what we'll do with regard to greenhouse gases. And it doesn't have specifics of what programs are going to initiate to be able to deal with getting a net zero emission. What programs are you going to move on? What are the things we should be doing? Where should the focus be? It doesn't talk about the 85% of the rest of the world that is, in fact, we could do, we're not, we have to, but we could do everything perfectly well, everything. And we're still going to have a catastrophe nationally, internationally, and around the world because 85% of the problem, 85% is the rest of the world. And so the idea, I think the Green New Deal deserves an enormous amount of credit for bringing this to a head in a way that it hasn't been before. It hasn't been. But the reason, I don't know, I'm not opposed to the Green New Deal. What I did was what I thought beyond, at least in more detail, what the Green New Deal is calling for. How to do the things we need to do, when they have to be done, how quickly we should move, how much we should invest, et cetera. And it's based on science. And look, I just look at all the organizations that many of you belong to, how they rated my plan. On balance, it's been B+ or beyond that by every one of these organizations. And so the idea that, no, you're shaking your head, no, but that's true. The fact of the matter is that where are we?
How, for you and your thinking, how much do you take into consideration, jobs for folks in Ohio and Pennsylvania, and how much is, thinking for 7 generations out for the population of the world?
It's all about 7 generations out, but you've got to deal with what's going on with jobs. This is an enormous opportunity. An enormous opportunity. We can create over 10 million jobs that are making $25 an hour. We're not talking about jobs you're going to get a minimum wage. We can do so much if we invest the kind of money. Well, for example, I call for immediately investing $400 billion in research and development now. And goes so the idea that we're not going to, look, what bothers me most about what's going on in the country today, we're walking around with our heads down like, oh, what are we going to do? We're in such great trouble. This is the United States of America. There's not a damn thing we've not been able to accomplish once we set our mind to it. We have the best scientists in the world, and when we resolve what we're going to do, and because of all of you in the studio audience and all those organizations that I've been associated with, they've decided enough is enough is enough. We have to act. And so we can create enormous opportunity in Pennsylvania, in Minnesota, in California, across the board. Just think what happens. If we are able to move in a direction that we have 500,000 charging stations for electric vehicles, what does that do? Well, that gives us a corner on the electric vehicle market. That will create thousands of good jobs in the automobile industry. We will own the market. And we will be, in addition to that, transferring the technology that we come up with, more than like any other country in the world with our capacity, selling it to the rest of the world. We'll be creating jobs. And the idea that now the one thing you do have to do, in my view, some people are going to be displaced. And some people in some industries are going to be more displaced than others. And you can't just say, well, what we're going to do is automatically you're going to all of a sudden make solar panels. Or because, when you look at Fortune, they say they're the 2 biggest job creators coming down the road, solar and and wind, other little things like transportation. But my point is that there are things that we can do now, that can begin to change the arc in a significant way.
Hey, I'm just reading the New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexandria, just brushing up on my criminal justice reform bona fides, and I was wondering, did anybody else notice that Joe Biden's eye looked like it was about to pop out of his head, fly across the room, and hit someone? I mean, it's like blood was welling up in his eye. It was pooling, literal blood was pooling in his eye socket. It looked like something out of Walking Dead. It was really creepy, you know? And I noticed that no one talked about it. People act like it wasn't there. Like, who does that? Like, this guy's look like he's about to die on stage from some man-eating, flesh-eating bacterial disease and infection. And no one in cable media talked about Joe's eye. And I'm not saying that's the reason why he should have to step down, he can't run, or any of that. I'm just saying, don't put a guy up there with an eye that's about to fall out and then act like I'm the one crazy because I see what everybody else sees, but no one wants to discuss it. Malarkey.
Well, look what happened to our administration. We cut by an enormous amount of, an enormous percentage, the efficiency.
When I listen to Joe Biden talk, I start wondering, why is he talking and what is he trying to say to me? He's full of so much doublespeak, it's hard to determine exactly what his point is or if he'll ever get to his point. It's like his GPS stops working and he's just driving. Yeah, long ago, those days when, we'd have guys who didn't know where they were going. They were chauvinistic as hell. They didn't want their wives to tell them. So they would just drive for hours in the wrong direction, only to find out totally after they ran out of gas that it was the other way. That's the conversation with Joe Biden. And nowhere was it more on display than tonight, when there's no one he can hide behind, when he doesn't have to cut himself off, but he still cut himself off several times during his own dissertation, a dissertation that he didn't have to have. This is how Joe Biden gets into trouble on the campaign trail. He talks and he talks and he talks. And he talks some more. Instead of shutting up and letting Anderson Cooper ask him another question, he just winds down this road of lostivity. So, first thing I want to do is be more specific because Joe wasn't specific at all. Remember, there was one part you may recall when he started talking about the report card he got on his climate change plan? You know whose climate change plan got an A? Bernie Sanders. Not you, Joe Biden, but Joe kept repeating the same crap over and over and over again. We're only 15% of the problem. The rest of the problem is 85% of the world, and the world will need to stick together. The world will have to change its mind. I mean, we need to get on top of this. We need to really do something. But once again, if we do something, it won't mean everything because we need to get everybody involved. Did I tell you that 85% of the rest of the climate change problem is other countries? Even if we do everything that we can do, everything perfectly, and we should do everything perfectly. I'm not saying we won't do everything perfectly. I'm saying even if we do everything perfectly, we will still not solve all the problem because 85% of the problem isn't us, it's everybody else. That was Joe Biden for 35 minutes. Throw it against the wall, Johnson, and run out the clock. He brings up the Green New Deal and he slams the Green New Deal. He says the Green New Deal is not specific enough. And then 30 seconds later, he says, but the Green New Deal is great. It's a great start. It's a great conversation. It's great. We're getting people talking about it and blah, blah, blah. So he does this all the time. This is political speak. This is the Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden playbook where you shoot down what you prop up and then shoot it down again so people can't put you on either side of the argument. You claim both sides of the argument and then you kill both sides of the argument. So later, if they say, hey, you before that, he can say, hey, but I said very clearly that this wasn't working really well. And if it wins, he could say, yeah, I was for that, remember? I said I was for it. Remember that part where I said it was a good idea right after I took a dump on it? That's Joe Biden. It gets tiresome and it gets old. Now, how bad did Joe Biden do? He did bad enough that while I was watching him, I was live tweeting and I was saying to the world, I feel bad for Joe Biden. Now, I don't really feel bad for him, but I do feel like it's a sense of shame that a person doesn't know when they need to just let it go. I do understand fundamentally why Simone Sanders was fighting so hard against this CNN climate change town hall. Because she knew Joe Biden would go out there and do what Joe Biden did, which is go out there and make a mockery and a fool of himself, embarrass himself, and make his donors say, you know what? Not on my dollar, Joe. If I want to waste my money, I just flush it down the toilet. There's easier ways to throw money away, Johnson, instead of giving it to Joe Biden. The horse left the stable. That dog don't hunt. Summertime is over. However you want to put it, whatever makes sense to you. Joe Biden kept talking to Anderson Cooper, like I said in the tweet. It was like listening to Joe Biden was like watching a dog drown. But if it was a dog, I'm sure Anderson Cooper would have saved it. He did not do that for Joe Biden. He let Joe Biden drown. All right, guys.